Your radio reading service now presents a reading of articles and features from USA Today for December 31st through January 1st. Your reader for this hour is Dasha. On the front page today, the biggest story with a big picture above the fold, Indiana's quarterback went from 2,149 to number 1. Mendoza credits Cuban heritage for his work ethic, by Rick Jervis. Fernando Mendoza sat in the front seat of the rental car on the 6-hour drive, dialing one college coach after another. He had just finished a week-long visit to some of college football's most elite programs: Alabama, Clemson, South Carolina, LSU, and Mendoza, then a high school junior, needed to convince them to put him on their roster. One after another, their answer was no. He ended each call with the corresponding cheer from that team. Go Tigers! Roll Tide! Characteristically upbeat, despite the rejections. After checking into a Gainesville hotel with his speed and conditioning coach, Antonio Robinson, Mendoza confided something that had been weighing on him. He'd learned his mom had multiple sclerosis, an incurable disease of the nervous system. He had to win, he told him, for her. Bro, you're good. You're going to play on Sundays, Robinson told Mendoza at the time, meaning playing in the NFL. We don't know how you're going to get there, but you are going to play. Today, Mendoza, 22, sits atop the college football universe. As Indiana University's starting quarterback, he led the Hoosiers to a historic, undefeated season and secured the top ranking in the college football playoffs. Indiana plays the dynastic University of Alabama in the Rose Bowl on January 1st for a chance to advance and play for the national title, which would be another first for the traditionally basketball-first school. On December 13th, Mendoza was awarded the Heisman Trophy, college football's highest honor, becoming both the first Hoosier and first Cuban American to win the award, and only the third Latino winner after Jim Plunkett in 1970 and Alabama's Bryce Young in 2021. Several mock drafts, including USA Today's, forecast Mendoza, ranked 2,149th in the nation coming out of high school, as the number 1 selection in next year's NFL draft. How did a lanky 6'5" kid from Miami rise to such improbable heights in college football? Mendoza's coming of age in Miami would be marked by a cultural changing of the guard, when tackle football was becoming increasingly popular among Cuban Americans who had traditionally focused on baseball. His Cuban heritage sparked a work ethic that often eclipsed others around him, and even as obstacles piled up, Mendoza found a way to work around, over, or straight through them. It's a huge point of pride, he told NBC Sports, adding how his grandparents emigrated from Cuba to start new lives in the United States. Baseball Reference.com counts more than 400 Cuban-born players who have played in the major leagues, dating back to 1871, when Havana-born Esteban Steve Belan laced up for the Troy Haymakers. Total Cuban-born players to ever play in the NFL? 4. ¿Por qué en Cuba? Was a common line of reasoning and refrain of many parents to urge kids in the 1980s Miami to spend hours on end at the batting cages. Boys spent their Saturdays learning fundamentals like rundowns or how to lay down a bunt at the hands of retired Cuban ballplayers, dreaming of one day playing in the majors themselves. Florida has long been a perennial powerhouse for recruiting high school football talent. It's one of the nation's top destinations for elite college football since the 1990s, during which a team from the state appeared in every national title game until 2002. According to the recruiting database ESPN 300, Florida produced the most prospects of any state in the country in the class of 2023. But the past 2 decades has seen a noticeable shift in Cubans and Cuban Americans in South Florida becoming focused on football, said Carlos Gobel, 47, a high school football coach who who has coached youth sports for more than 20 years in South Florida. Would-be pitchers made the switch to quarterbacks. Spurred on by the past successes of the Miami Dolphins' perfect 1972 season and their Hall of Fame quarterback Dan Marino, Gen Xers took to playing football in high school. By the time these families became parents themselves, they placed their kids into rec leagues, starting as young as 4, Goebel said. Youth leagues today actively try to recruit the best young talent, and parents are hiring specialized coaches to train their youth earlier. Mendoza was destined to play organized sports. His father, Fernando Mendoza IV, played football at Christopher Columbus High School in Miami, alongside Mario Cristobal, head coach at the University of Miami, and later as a student at Brown University. His mother, Elsa Mendoza, was a standout tennis player at the University of Miami. He joined the South Miami Gray Ghosts, part of a local youth league, while in grade school, but started as a 4th-string quarterback. He had to work his way into a starting position. By the time he reached 8th grade, Mendoza's sights were set on playing quarterback in college. That year, his father hired Robinson to improve Fernando's speed and agility. In one of their early meetings, Robinson had him and other student athletes do 15 100-meter dashes back-to-back with just 30-second breathers in between runs. Mendoza caught his breath and then asked, "We got anything else?" "He's just built different." Robinson, a former NFL receiver who won a Super Bowl ring with the Green Bay Packers in 2011, said, "I remember telling my son, this kid's going to play in the NFL." In 10th grade, Mendoza began playing football at Columbus High School, his father's alma mater, located in the heart of Westchester. Calle Ocho, or 8th Street, remains the beating heart of the Cuban diaspora in Miami, but Westchester, pronounced Huechete in the truncated lingo of Cuban Americans, is its gravitational center. At Columbus, Cuban-American parents aspire to raise their boys in the teachings and values of the Catholic Marist Brothers families once followed in Cuba. Mendoza came to play under Coach Dave Dunn, who has coached high school and collegiate athletes for 3 decades. At their first meeting, Mendoza showed up with a notebook and a pen, eager to soak up everything his coach had to offer, Dunn said. Over the next 3 years, Dunn and Mendoza lunched together each day in Dunn's office, meticulously going over practice film, discussing his mistakes, or strategizing plays for the next game. "He's always trying to learn, always working his tail off to get better," Dunn said, "and I think that's ingrained in him from his grandparents and obviously his parents as well." All 4 of Mendoza's grandparents fled Cuba's dictatorship and emigrated to the United States. His paternal grandmother, Marta Menocalda Mendoza, arrived in the United States via Operation Pedro Pan, a clandestine exodus of more than 14,000 unaccompanied Cuban youth. His maternal grandfather, Alberto Espino, arrived in Miami as a teen in 1960. In 2019, Mendoza and his younger brother Alberto joined their grandparents on a missionary trip to the Caribbean island. They climbed along the Sierra Maestra mountain range home to Fidel Castro's 1950s uprising, visited the chapel of La Virgen de la Caridad del Cobre, Cuba's patron saint, and distributed goods they brought from the United States. Mendoza was struck by how his impoverished family members survived while having next to nothing. It was a transformative trip, as he later expressed in an essay in an application to the prestigious Miami Herald's Silver Knight Award in high school. "I had arrived in Cuba with no expectations, but left with a sense of place in this world," Mendoza wrote. "Whatever I accomplish or fulfill in my lifetime, I will always represent my cousins, family, and community back in Santiago." At school, Mendoza was as focused on the classroom as he was on the offensive schemes, said Sylvie Galvez Cuesta, his guidance counselor. He loaded up on the most challenging math and science classes, was director of the campus ministry, and helped launch a student-led podcast. In 2022, after escorting the 15 nominees to the Miami Herald offices for interviews, Galvez Cuesta took the students to lunch at a restaurant. Midway through the meal, Mendoza tapped his water glass with a fork, stood up, and gave an impromptu speech thanking the faculty on behalf of the students. The counselors there were in tears. "That's Fernando in a nutshell," said Galvez Cuesta. Jose Leon began at Columbus High School as a freshman wide receiver as Mendoza entered his junior year as the team's starting quarterback. Prodded by his dad, Leon sent Mendoza an Instagram message offering to work out with him. To his surprise, Mendoza responded immediately, suggesting they meet early to catch passes. For the next 5 months, the two met at 5 a.m. 3 days a week, before the 5:45 a.m. practice with the team. Leon broke 3 fingers fielding passes from Mendoza's increasingly powerful arm, but the pre-dawn sessions forged a bond between the two. Leon would later visit Mendoza home to play Madden NFL video games, shoot hoops, or have breakfast with him at La Carreta, a Cuban culinary landmark where they munched on Cuban toast and croquetas. Often Mendoza would dart back home to study or meet with his parents, Leon said. He was locked in, said Leon, now in the football squad at Appalachian State. I can't recall a time I've ever seen him at a party. In 2020, his junior year, Mendoza took the reins of the Columbus High School football team. As the coronavirus continued spreading, he led the team to an undefeated season, but statewide competitions were canceled. Instead, the team won a tri-county championship. Following closely in his footsteps was his younger brother, Alberto Mendoza, who later led the Explorers to back-to-back state championships. He's backup quarterback at Indiana, behind Mendoza, foreshadowing a Manning family-like takeover of the sport in the coming years, with a mojo criollo taste. At Indiana, the brothers share a house together, and Alberto closely follows Mendoza's game day preparation and decision-making. Their bond started at an early age when their mother had them share a room, even though their house had a spare room. Midway through high school, the Mendoza brothers received one of the most crushing news of their lives. Mom had multiple sclerosis. Elsa Mendoza kept it from her sons, hoping not to cause them undue worry. After contracting COVID-19, however, she became so weak that she could no longer hide it from them. It was during football season, and I realized I wasn't going to be able to travel, she wrote in her Players Tribune essay. And the thought of you wondering if I supported you any less because suddenly I wasn't at your games, I hated that, so that's when I knew we had to sit you and your brother down. Mendoza took the news as best could be expected, Elsa Mendoza wrote, filling her with confidence and helping to raise awareness about MS. You've done that in the sweetest, strongest, most Fernando way possible, by making me feel the exact opposite of embarrassed. You've made me feel seen. Mendoza's road trip through the Southeast with Robinson netted no scholarships. Dunn, his coach, reached out to more than 50 contacts, asking if anyone needed a quarterback. I called everybody I know, and nobody would bite, Dunn said. In recent years, college football has become increasingly competitive. Out of the 1 million high school football players, only 7.5% will make it to the college level, according to an NCAA analysis. The introduction in 2018 of the NCAA transfer portal, which made Mendoza's arrival to Indiana possible, and the name, image, and likeness, or NIL deals, which allow students-athletes to profit from sales and marketing, has only ramped up competition. And players have the power to go with the highest bidder. In South Florida, this trend trickled down to the competition, driving high school parents to specialize and train their student-athletes earlier and earlier, Goebel said. Whatever the NFL used to do is what college programs are doing now, and whatever college programs used to do, high school programs are doing now. Despite all adversity, Mendoza remained unflinchingly positive, said Robinson, his speed and conditioning coach. Fernando overcame a lot, he said. He's beating the odds. Mendoza graduated Columbus High with a 4.86 cumulative GPA and 12 advanced placement courses, but he was only a 2-star football prospect, ranked 2,149th nationally and 140th among quarterbacks by 247 Sports, which ranks high school athletes. His best offer came from Yale University, but a week before the signing deadline, the University of California, Berkeley offered him a spot. Now he had a chance to play for a competitive football school and study at one of the country's top business schools. At Berkeley, Mendoza showed flashes of an elite college quarterback. He twice led the Golden Bears to victory against Stanford, throwing for a combined 593 yards and 6 touchdowns. They lost to his hometown University of Miami in October 2024 in a thrilling 9-38 comeback win for the Canes. The University of Miami was selected into the college football playoffs and won their first-round matchup earlier this month against Texas A&M. Even as he excelled on the field, Mendoza also poured himself into academics, taking finance and business courses at UC Berkeley's renowned Haas School of Business. Stephen Etter, a lecturer at Haas who's mentored Mendoza, would go over assignments and map out how to pursue his degree with him. Often, Mendoza would bring up his Cuban upbringing. Whenever I worked with Fernando, 90% of the time he'd say, "That's my heritage. That's what my grandparents and parents taught me," Etter said. Last year, Mendoza chose to transfer to Indiana University to play under head coach Curt Cignetti and with younger brother Alberto. Still 2 classes shy of graduating from the Haas School of Business, Mendoza appealed to the dean, requesting to make up the courses remotely. The school's leaders designed a video conferencing option so that Mendoza could finish his classes and get his degree, Etter said. Fernando's feats on the field at Indiana have now taken on historic, almost mythic contours, leading college football's losingest team to an undefeated season and a first seed in the college football playoffs. At the Heisman ceremony in New York City on December 13th, Mendoza again paid tribute to his Cuban upbringing by switching to Spanish midway through his acceptance speech to honor his grandparents who were in attendance. Por el amor y sacrificio de mis padres y abuelos, los quiero mucho, he said. Later that evening, Mendoza joined a viewing party for more than 50 friends and family in Manhattan. He went around the cavernous room, hugging friends, taking selfies, and letting each person hold or snap a photo with the 45-pound trophy. As Mendoza worked his way through the crowd, ABBA's hit song Fernando blared over the venue's speakers. The freshly minted Heisman winner smiled and kept hugging and thanking until each person was acknowledged. The party lapsed into a long, loud, cathartic sing-along. There was something in the air that night. The stars were bright. Fernando. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is almost 17 minutes after the hour. In other news, Trump Kennedy Center concert canceled. Jazz group bows out of gig for New Year's Eve by Amanda Lee Myers. An acclaimed jazz band has canceled its New Year's Eve performance at the Trump Kennedy Center following the renaming of the institution. Though the Cookers did not provide a reason, the band said the decision on December 29th has come together very quickly. Jazz was born from struggle and from a relentless insistence on freedom of thought, of expression, and of the full human voice, the band wrote on its website. Some of us have been making this music for many decades, and that history still shapes us. We are not turning away from our audience and do want to make sure that when we do return to the bandstand, the room is able to celebrate the full presence of the music and everyone in it. The band continued to say that their hope is that this moment will leave space for reflection, not resentment. To everyone who's disappointed or upset, we understand and share your sadness, they said. We remain committed to playing music that reaches across divisions rather than deepening them. The last-minute cancellation follows the Kennedy Center's Board of Trustees' controversial December 18th decision to rename the Music, Arts, and Cultural Institution the Donald J. Trump and the John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts. Jazz musician Chuck Redd canceled a Christmas Eve performance in protest of the renaming. Redd's decision prompted Trump Kennedy Center president Richard Grenell to seek $1 million in damages for the political stunt that has cost us considerably, according to a December 26th letter to Redd obtained by USA Today. In a December 29th statement to USA Today, a spokesperson for the Kennedy Center doubled down on its criticism of Redd. Any artist canceling their show at the Trump Kennedy Center over political differences isn't courageous or principled. They are selfish, intolerant. Art is a shared cultural experience meant to unite, not exclude, the statement continued. The Trump Kennedy Center is a true bipartisan institution that welcomes artists and patrons from all backgrounds. Great art transcends politics, and Americans' cultural center remains committed to presenting popular programming that inspires and resonates with all audiences. In addition to Redd's and the Cookers' cancellation, the New York Times is reporting that the New York dance company Doug Verone and the Dancers is canceling 2 performances in April. Verone, who leads the company, said in an email to the Times that it will mean losing $40,000. It is financially devastating, but morally exhilarating. Michelle and Rob Reiner's autopsy reports blocked from release by Taiwan Moorman. A judge has blocked the release of details from Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner's autopsy reports amid the investigation into their deaths. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed to the Los Angeles Times that it had received a court order barring release of the reports as requested by the Los Angeles Police Department. A Los Angeles Superior Court judge signed the order, which prevents the public release of information, photos, and reports in connection with the death investigation, according to documents obtained by the outlet. The two cases are no longer available on the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's website. In a statement to the outlet, the LAPD said it made the request to ensure detectives from Robbery Homicide Division learned of important information surrounding their deaths before the media and the public, and that the order was not sought to undermine transparency. Medical examiner reports have revealed Reiner and his wife died from multiple sharp force injuries in a suspected homicide. According to the couple's death certificates, Reiner's time of death was listed before his wife's. The director's marital status said married, while his photographer wife's death certificate said she was widowed. The couple were cremated December 19th. Though the county's deputy coroner reported that Reiner and Singer Reiner died of their injuries within minutes, the date and time the injuries were inflicted are listed as unknown. Law enforcement and prosecutors have accused the couple's 32-year-old son, Nick Reiner, of stabbing his parents to death in approximately the early morning hours. The LAPD has said the couple were discovered in the master bedroom of their home. After his arrest December 14th on suspicion of first-degree murder, Nick Reiner remains behind bars without bail. He is scheduled to be arraigned on January 7th. The Trump administration starts DEI probes. False Claims Act will be used to look for fraud by Jessica Guinan. The Trump administration is investigating diversity initiatives at major companies under the False Claims Act, a federal law the Department of Justice uses to take action against contractors that defraud the government. As USA Today reported in October, the DOJ earlier this year began issuing civil investigative demands to employers across a broad range of industries, directing them to turn over information about their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The use of CIDs, a legal tool that allows the government to gather information during a civil investigation and that is usually reserved to pursue government contractors that submit fraudulent bills for their services, has rattled corporate America because it leaves companies vulnerable to claims that could reach millions of dollars. Among the companies that have received DOJ investigative demands are Alphabet's Google and Verizon Communications, the Wall Street Journal reported. Google could not immediately be reached for comment. Verizon declined to comment. Just hours after he took the oath of office, President Donald Trump issued executive orders to dismantle diversity programs and directed federal contractors to end, quote, illegal DEI discrimination, end quote. Fearing lawsuits and the loss of government contracts, dozens of the nation's largest companies, from McDonald's to Facebook owner Meta, rolled back or eliminated DEI programs. In May, the DOJ signaled its intention to investigate federal contractors and grant recipients by creating the Civil Rights Fraud Initiative, which threatens legal action under False Claims Act, a civil law that allows the government to recover funds lost to fraud. Government scrutiny has only intensified as the Trump administration moves to pressure employers into overhauling hiring practices to align with the president's political agenda. While testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee in July, Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, issued a warning about the Trump administration's crackdown on DEI initiatives. During her testimony, Dillon promised the Trump administration would bring, quote, numerous investigations and lawsuits against institutions that continue to offend our federal civil rights laws. Either DEI will end it on its own, Dillon said, or we will kill it. Damages and penalties can quickly add up in the False Claims Act lawsuits, lawyers told USA Today. Defendants are at risk of being held liable for 3 times the damages the government alleges. What's more, the DOJ is encouraging whistleblowers to file DEI lawsuits on the government's behalf and potentially receive a portion of the windfall. Last year, the DOJ took in nearly $3 billion in False Claims Act settlements and judgments. Just the mere threat of a False Claims Act investigation is a powerful cudgel, lawyers say, and becoming a target of the Trump administration carries significant business risks, from reputational damage to shareholder class action lawsuits. I've had many leaders say to me, we are confident from a purely legal perspective in what we are doing. David Glasgow, executive director of the Meltzer Center for Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at the NYU School of Law, told USA Today in October. And then a lot of them will say to me, none of that really matters if we've been dragged through the mud by this administration. Alleged daycare fraud gets attention by Christopher Cann. A viral video allegedly showing abandoned daycares in Minnesota drew the attention of the FBI and Vice President J.D. Vance, the latest in a wave of scrutiny on the state, amid an ongoing fraud investigation targeting social services. The video, by online conservative influencer Nick Shirley, shows him visiting multiple daycare centers in Minnesota, which the narrator says are abandoned despite being licensed to serve dozens of children and receiving public funds. Since being posted on December 26, Shirley's 42-minute-long video has racked up more than 100 million views on X. Vance applauded the video, writing on social media, "This dude has done far more useful journalism than any of the winners of the 2024 Pulitzer Center prizes." On December 28th, FBI Director Kash Patel weighed in, saying the Bureau is aware of recent social media reports in Minnesota, adding that the FBI has already surged investigative resources to the state to probe the alleged fraud. The FBI believes this is just the tip of a very large iceberg, Patel said. We will continue to follow the money and protect children, and this investigation very much remains ongoing. A spokesperson for Minnesota government Tim Walz said in a statement to USA Today that the governor has taken many steps to address the problem, including hiring an outside firm to audit high-risk programs and supporting criminal prosecutions. The governor has worked for years to crack down on fraud and asked the state legislature for more authority to take aggressive action, the spokesperson said. He has strengthened oversight, including launching investigations into these specific facilities, one of which was already closed. Shirley's videos have increasingly been hailed by the Trump administration. After he and another conservative personality posted a video of migrants selling knockoff merchandise in Manhattan, immigration agents began targeting the street vendors. Shirley has also been criticized for publishing false information. For example, in Shirley's recent viral video, he claims the Minnesota state flag was recently changed to resemble the Somali flag. The flag's designer and an expert advisor on the redesign recently told Reuters those claims are false. The video and responses from the Trump administration are the latest developments in a scandal that has rocked Minnesota state politics and spawned multiple federal probes. The pandemic-era fraud cases first made headlines in 2022, but they gained new attention in recent months as Trump has gone after Walz and the state's Somali community. Since 2022, federal prosecutors have charged 78 people for their suspected roles in the $250 million fraud scheme involving federal nutrition aid, many of them U.S. citizens of Somali descent. At least 60 suspects have been convicted. The comments from Vance and Patel also come after federal prosecutors suggested more than $9 billion may have been stolen from Medicaid-funded programs in Minnesota. On December 18th, Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson said fraud is, quote, swamping Minnesota and calling into question everything we know about our state, end quote. Thompson did not say how the authorities reached the $9 billion figure, which surpasses the amount that those charged have been accused of stealing. Walz shut down the Housing Stabilization Services program in October after it was found to be vulnerable to fraud, according to prosecutors. On X, Walz celebrated the arrests. Today's charges are exactly the type of strong action we need from prosecutors to put fraudsters behind bars, he said, adding, we will not tolerate fraud and we will continue to work with our federal partners to ensure fraud is stopped and fraudsters are caught. You are listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 30 minutes after the hour. On the opinion page, Sarah Pacagno's column is 2026 trend forecasts: white, cabbage, AI slop. It's fitting that the Oxford University Press's 2025 word of the year is rage bait, because I'm convinced that's the only way to describe the trend predictions for next year. Pantone recently declared Cloud Dancer a dull white, its 2026 color of the year, evoking imagery of renter-friendly walls and minimalist design choices at best. A few days later, Pinterest predicted that khaki would make a comeback in fashion, backed up by Sherwin-Williams' own color of the year. And then, a Business Insider story declared cabbage, a cheap vegetable I associate with the Great Depression and dieting, as the newest food trend. It sure does feel like these are signs of the times, or at least subtle messages from companies that cultural conservatism is back and that financial insecurity is here to stay. Is this a sign that we're regressing? A sign that we're headed for a recession? Proof of the conservative grip on the culture? A symbol of boredom and lack of creativity? Yes to all. This year ushered in President Donald Trump's second term after a tense election in 2024, and it's abundantly clear that nearly half the country is ready for conservatism's comeback. You can see inklings of this in what was popular in 2025, from the tradwife lifestyle to the prevalence of the manosphere. Controversial country singer Morgan Wallen was named Billboard's Top Artist of the Year, while the Joe Rogan Experience continues to trounce every other podcast on the market. Most of the highest-grossing movies this year were sequels or remakes. That's not even mentioning what we're seeing online. The artificial intelligence industry is booming, and we're seeing the repercussions on our social media feeds. But instead of sounding the alarms about our dystopian future in the distance, where no one can distinguish what's real and what's generated by machines, Time magazine declared that the architects of AI are its 2025 Person of the Year. The internet is so bogged down with AI, in fact, that slop is Merriam-Webster's 2025 word of the year, highlighting a term for creepy, zany, and demonstrably fake content, as the Associated Press puts it. Feels right. Meanwhile, things aren't getting better for the average person. The economy is not improving, nor are people suddenly able to afford groceries amid our cultural atrophy. All we're receiving is a government that barely functions with a side of content we've already seen before. Look, it's not that I'm trying to yuck anyone's yum. I understand that some people welcome the rise of AI, love going to see remakes of Disney movies, and are perfectly content with the color white. I'm not even a particular fan of trends as a concept. I just think that the signs point to a return to conservatism in America. My predictions for the new year? Well, I have a few predictions. The Trump administration will continue to be cruel in a way that almost feels like a caricature of what we assumed it would look like. The economy will continue to improve for the wealthiest Americans, while everyone else struggles to make ends meet. We will continue to witness the AIification of every element of our lives. We are no longer pursuing new ideas, nor are we encouraging people to push boundaries or be daring in their artistic endeavors. Everything is simply white, cabbage-flavored slop. The other piece is by Mike Poole, Vice President Research Director at Forrester, where he and his team cover consumer trends in marketing, including streaming services. Keep your eye on Netflix, Paramount fight for Warner Brothers. If you thought the drama on HBO's Succession TV series was intense, the real-world streaming wars are in the midst of a far more consequential episode of boardroom intrigue. The latest plot twist? Paramount's hostile takeover bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. Let's back up. On December 5th, Netflix announced a definitive agreement to acquire Warner Brothers, including its studios, HBO Max and HBO. But before the reeling market could catch its breath, Paramount launched a cash tender offer to claim all of Warner Brothers Discovery. The stakes are high. Whichever media company, if any, ultimately secures all or part of the Warner Brothers Discovery will end up controlling the calculus of the streaming wars and the future of entertainment. Netflix says its global reach and streaming expertise will create a stronger entertainment offering, expand creative opportunities, and give consumers more choice and value through a deeper content library. Ultimately, Netflix agrees this would drive shareholder value. Paramount claims that its bid for Warner Brothers Discovery will create a stronger, pro-competitive entertainment company with theatrical support, sports rights, and direct-to-consumer growth potential. It promises superior value and shareholder certainty by offering a higher price and faster, more secure deal completion. Like Succession, this plot is fraught with power plays and politics. It's a tangled web of personal alliances, political influence, and behind-the-scenes deal-making, much of which is happening outside the boardroom. President Donald Trump said he will be involved in the decision, a move that breaks from typical private sector regulatory norms. Consumers, however, care about prices, not politics. Since 2021, the average monthly cost for ad-free streaming services has jumped 54%, according to Forrester's analysis. In the wake of continual price hikes, consumers are bracing for the potential of steeper prices. When Forrester, the company where I work, polled streaming subscribers, more disagreed, 34%, than agreed, 31%, that they would end up paying a lower combined price for Netflix and HBO Max. I bet they raised prices, one consumer told Forrester. This is the predominant sentiment. Bundled subscriptions will likely mean consumers pay less overall. However, whether HBO Max ends up paired with Netflix or Paramount Plus, a cost-saving bundle is all but certain. This is akin to what Disney does with Hulu, offering a premium bundle that saves dual subscribers per month. But despite the cost relief that bundles provide, individual streaming prices will continue to rise, whether a deal happens or not. Why? The streaming services market is replacing the costly legacy entertainment model. Data from Forrester's The State of Streaming Services U.S. 2025 report tells a different story than the prevailing monopoly narrative. While Netflix still leads in favorability, its dominance is waning. Of the 8 major U.S. streaming services Forrester regularly analyzed, only 2 saw declines in monthly usage since 2023, Netflix and HBO Max, ironically. Others, such as Prime Video and Hulu, posted notable gains. In fact, HBO Max ranked second to last in monthly usage, just above Apple TV and below Peacock. Should Netflix close its Warner Brothers acquisition, adding HBO Max to its portfolio will no doubt reinforce its position as a leading streamer. But make no mistake, the competition will remain fierce as streaming rivals close in. It's not just other comparable streaming services pecking at Netflix's heels. The company continues to report intense competition from other entertainment platforms, including social media and gaming, especially short-form video. Just look to Gen Alpha as a leading indicator, with 67% of U.S. online youths ages 12 to 17 using TikTok at least weekly, according to Forrester data. While Netflix remains confident that its deal will close, Paramount isn't backing down. And if you think you know how this streaming saga will conclude, think again. The regulatory process is expected to play out well into 2026, if not longer. Until then, nothing is certain. Expect more high-stakes corporate drama to come. While HBO's Succession has already reached its finale, this new showdown is just beginning. In the money section, Outback designers add Easter eggs to their vehicle by Mark Phelan. Subaru Outback planning manager Nikki Rydell smiled mischievously. Did you know you can carry a shark on top of an Outback? I admitted the idea hadn't occurred to me and probably wouldn't have as we drove a new 2026 Outback through Arizona's high desert. A cholla maybe, but not a shark. I'll show you, she said as we pulled into a National Park Service plaza. She directed me to open the hatchback, stand under it, and look up at the trailing edge of the black plastic spoiler on the roof. There it was, a drawing of the Outback's profile with a shark on the roof. There's a friendly competition at Subaru between the teams working on Forester and Outback SUVs. Designers went all in on Easter eggs, visual inside jokes for devoted fans for the new 2026 Outback, leaning into owners' activities and the vehicle's place in Subaru history. The image was the second in a series of drawings depicting Outback hauling things, canoes, rooftop tents, and more, all in fun, things Outback owners do or might not do, she said. The Subaru Outback hasn't jumped the shark jumped the Outback. Dogs don't leave home without one. Another natural subject area for a Subaru Easter egg, the brand's highly publicized affection for dogs. A diagram on the hatch opening expresses the Outback's capacity in dogs. A 42.8-inch load floor and one dog with the rear seat up for human occupants. 75.3 inches and two dogs nose to nose with the seat down. Another diagram represents the hatch's dimensions. 44.3 inches wide, 34.1 inches high, enough room for one dog and luggage. And don't forget, it's a machine. Another pair of Easter eggs includes the words "since 1966" in English and kanji on the profile of a pair of pistons, commemorating the year Subaru first used a Boxer engine and portraying the engine's horizontally opposed pistons. The Boxer engine is one of Subaru's signature features. There are more Easter eggs on some of Subaru's authorized accessories. The 2026 Subaru Outback is on sale now. 25 significant recalls range from inconvenient to dangerous, by Charles Singh. Vehicle recalls can range from precautionary to urgent, depending on the problem. This year, millions of vehicles have been recalled for repairs of varying urgency. These recalls could have saved drivers from negative and even dangerous experiences. The reasons behind major recalls could bring a brand's reliability into question. From software to engines, there have been plenty of reasons for top automakers to make necessary changes to some vehicles in 2025. These recalls are among the most widespread and urgent this year. General Motors' V8 engine recall was especially concerning. In May, General Motors recalled around 600,000 full-size trucks and SUVs powered by its L87 V8 engine in America for potential loss of propulsion and crash risks. These problems were a result of a manufacturing defect that needed to be addressed immediately to avoid engine failures on the road. Popular models included the Cadillac Escalade 2021-24, the Chevy Silverado 1500 2021-24, and the GMC Yukon 2021-24. General Motors ordered authorized dealers to inspect and repair engines at no cost to owners. Class action lawsuit filed in February alleged that GM has known about the engine defect for several years but failed to disclose it to customers. This case is in the pretrial phase. Ford's rear view camera software recall spanned more than 1 million vehicles. The Blue Oval has had a rough year for recalls. In October, 1,448,655 Ford and Lincoln vehicles were recalled over a rear-view camera software problem, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Rear-view cameras could have displayed a distorted, intermittent, or blank image when the vehicles were in reverse. The recall extended to vehicles like the 2020 Mustang and the 2015 Ford Explorer, the 2015-19 Ford Flex, and more. The recall was the largest of 2025 in terms of vehicles possibly affected. Ford ordered authorized dealers to inspect and replace rear-view cameras for models covered by the recall free of charge. Toyota's instrument panel software recall involved best-selling models. In September, Toyota recalled more than 591,000 vehicles because their instrument panel displays did not show important information, like vehicle speed, on some vehicles. Models recalled included the Toyota RAV4 from 23 to 25, Toyota Tacoma 24 to 25, and the Toyota Camry in 2025. Toyota is known for its reliability, earning the title of most reliable new car brand from Consumer Reports. Typically, the brand doesn't suffer from major reliability concerns that would cause consumers to question the dependability of its vehicles. In the September recall, Toyota required authorized dealers to update the software in faulty displays or replace them. And Hyundai Palisade seatbelt recall involved popular midsize SUV. Hyundai's Palisade midsize SUV has become a fierce competitor in its segment, rivaling models like the Kia Telluride, Honda Pilot, and Toyota Highlander. In September, the Hyundai Palisade from 2020 to 2025 was recalled for a seatbelt buckle assembly problem. The recall could affect 568,580 Palisade models, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Nationwide, Hyundai dealers are repairing models free of charge. You can check if your vehicle is due for a repair covered by a recall at nhtsa.gov/recalls by entering its year, make, and model. Ignoring an active recall could result in crashes and injuries in some cases, so drivers should take steps to get recalled vehicles repaired as quickly as possible. You are listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 45 minutes after the hour. Looking at short bits from the 50 states, UPS plans to lay off 128 workers in Montgomery, Alabama. These layoffs are part of a broader workforce reduction at UPS. From Alaska, new data from the Alaska Department of Health shows the number of confirmed flu cases in the state has more than doubled from the last report. From Arizona, at long last, Rio Verde Foothills has an operating standpipe, and the desert community's water crisis has come to a close. In Little Rock, Arkansas, state and federal officials have criticized a federal court ruling that holds major poultry companies financially responsible for phosphorus pollution in the Illinois River watershed, warning that the decision could harm farmers and rural communities. In California, a proposed addiction treatment facility planned near Silverado High and Lorea Middle Schools in Victorville has drawn the opposition of the Victor Valley Union High School District Board of Trustees. The board recently adopted a resolution formally opposing the location of a county addiction treatment facility adjacent to schools in Victorville. A Purple Heart recipient from the Pueblo area was chosen as one of the nation's 2026 Purple Heart Patriot Project honorees. U.S. Army Specialist 4 Frank Cirillo was appointed Colorado's representative at a tribute to the courage and sacrifice of America's combat wounded, according to nonprofit the National Purple Heart Honor Mission. A 3-story vacant apartment building in Hartford, Connecticut that partially collapsed after a fire was demolished. In Delaware, Delmarva Power and Light is proposing new rates for large load electric customers in its coverage area. The proposed rates would apply to customers who use more than 25 megawatts of energy and mandate comprehensive studies to analyze the collective impact of large projects on the grid. From Washington, D.C., FBI Director Kash Patel has recently announced that the J. Edgar Hoover Building, which has been the headquarters of the agency, is permanently shutting down. From Georgia, dogs and cats in Bryan County now have a new place to be treated while waiting for their new home. A new Bryan County animal shelter has the grand opening ceremony December 15th. In Hawaii, state health officials have issued an advisory after routine testing detected high bacteria levels in Pokai Bay. From Boise, Idaho, the annual Winter Garden Aglow has drawn thousands of visitors, reaching its fundraising goal of $500,000 for renovations and expansions at the Idaho Botanical Garden. From Illinois, Slidematic Precision Components is celebrating a major expansion in Rockford. The company, which specializes in custom-engineered, cold-headed fasteners, has invested $7.9 million in a new addition to its existing facility. From Indianapolis, Indiana, lawmakers' rejection of President Donald Trump's push for mid-decade redistricting has caught the attention of the Washington Post editorial board, which named Indiana its inaugural State of the Year. For this new tradition, the editorial board looked for a state that did the most to improve or otherwise acted in a way worthy of emulation, the Post said. Calling mid-decade redistricting a race to the bottom, on the board wrote it found Indiana's actions most admirable. In Ames, Iowa, the long-awaited Schenker Plaza still has no opening date. To be located across the street from Ames City Hall, it's encountered multiple delays since 2024, most notably due to a yet-to-be-completed ice skating rink. In Florida, Palm Beach, the annals of Florida's eternal wrangle with invasive species are filled with unique techniques for ridding the state of damaging marauders. Barefoot python hunting, robot rabbits, specially trained dogs, and artificially intelligent traps are all in the arsenal. By happenstance, a new method has emerged: iguana diving. Mike Kimmel, who goes by Python Cowboy on social media and leads guided iguana hunts, was recorded on video leaping into canal water to capture one of the reptiles. And after seeing the feat posted online, Kimmel's clients kept asking to try their hand at the exclusively Florida experience. In Kentucky, Grace Emmanuel United Church of Christ in Butchertown is allowing a group of 14 men to stay overnight from January through February as part of their Room at the Inn program, a nationwide program where local churches open up as temporary shelter spaces during the coldest winter months. In, Massachusetts, summer visitors may see some sparkling waters and sandy beaches, but Cape Cod's bays and ponds are under stress, a new report has found. While the region's public drinking water supplies are largely excellent, many coastal and freshwater water bodies continue to show signs of serious pollution that could take years to fix. Findings come from the annual State of the Waters Cape Cod report for 2025 that the Association to Preserve Cape Cod recently released. In Ira Township, Michigan, they are moving ahead with plans for an accessible tree house and nature trails after receiving a state recreation grant. In Minnesota, nearly 100 mayors have appealed directly to Governor Tim Walz and state lawmakers to stop excessive spending and fraud in the state. In Jackson, Mississippi, Attorney General Lynn Fitch announced a distribution of nearly $1 million from the Victims of Human Trafficking and Commercial Sexual Exploitation Fund to 8 statewide organizations that help human trafficking victims become survivors. In Jefferson City, Missouri, students could see more agriculture-based science lessons starting in kindergarten through high school under bills pre-filed in both state legislative chambers that would establish a new statewide program. Strong winds in Barnston, Nebraska completely uprooted a tree which landed on top of 2 vehicles. Northern Nevada's Washoe County reported first measles case since 2018 involving an unvaccinated man. The patient was hospitalized. In Portsmouth, New Hampshire, City Councilor Andrew Bagley is pushing for the city to stop renting out worth lot parking spaces to private entities. The decision by the city to rent out spaces in the public lot, which is located in the heart of downtown Portsmouth, might have made sense a long time ago, but it's not really the highest and best use of city property now, Bagley said. In Las Cruces, New Mexico, Sarah Gonzalez is the new Deputy Director of Community Development for Building and Development Services. Pam Walker, out of Corning, New York, said there's still a lot to learn, but she's looking forward to being sworn in as Corning City Mayor and taking on the challenge of leading the Crystal City. She is the first woman to be elected Mayor of Corning. Bismarck, North Dakota, says the Republican Party will hold their state convention in Minot at the North Dakota State Fairgrounds in March. Kent State University and Biomed Science Academy STEM School have agreed upon a partnership in Ohio that will repurpose the university's Michael Schwartz Center building while providing the public STEM school with a state-of-the-art facility for elementary grades. Beginning in fall 2027, Biomed Science Academy will relocate its kindergarten through 6th grade to programs at the Schwartz Center. In Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 2 representatives are working to pass a series of 3 bills that would expand paid parental leave for full-time public school employees from 6 to 12 weeks and ensure fathers and adopting parents are covered. In Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, taxpayers are poised to spend more than $1 million on security upgrades at Governor Josh Shapiro's private home, and a GOP lawmaker wants to make sure they eventually get their money back. Senator Kristen Phillips Hill released a legislative proposal she argues will make sure these investments are fiscally responsible. In Portsmouth, Rhode Island, Kerrigan Nelson, an advocate for awareness of childhood cancer, Portsmouth native, died on Christmas Day, age 24, from her battle with cancer. Spartanburg, South Carolina, the medical center violated the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act by inappropriately transferring a patient. And let's see, in Dixon County, Tennessee, less than a week after the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency detected chronic wasting disease in Wayne County, new reports show positive test results for hunter-harvested deer in Dixon and Williamson counties. The results mark the first positive cases in both counties. In Corpus Christi, Texas, there's a selection of a new committee to act as advisors for additional environmental study of the proposed Inner Harbor seawater desalinization plant. The Farfield Advisory Committee will likely be in place by January 2nd. A Utah judge overseeing the trial of the accused killer of conservative activist Charlie Kirk ordered the release of most of the transcript and audio of a closed-door hearing on safety and security measures for the proceedings, but said media outlets who had asked for the records did not need special status to cover the proceedings. In Stowe, Vermont, Stowe Electric has secured funding and received regulatory approval to reboot a historic hydroelectric facility on the Little River. Virginia's minimum wage is increasing in 2026. It will be set at $12.77 effective January 1st. A 34-year-old woman in Linwood, Washington died, and a man was taken to the hospital after a fire broke out in an apartment complex, impacting 8 units and displacing 20 people. In Morgantown, West Virginia, the Avian Conservation Center of Appalachia said an injured bald eagle has died after it was hit by a vehicle the day after Christmas. Another hospital is coming to the Green Bay, Wisconsin area in the new year, but healthcare in general is still growing in the area, with several recent major clinic expansions or new health centers opening up. Hospital Sisters Health System will have a groundbreaking in 2026 for the new bed tower for St. Mary's Hospital Medical Center's $1 million expansion. When St. Mary's expansion is expected to wrap up, other health systems announced expansions to care that opened in late 2025 or expect to do so next year. And in Cheyenne, Wyoming, Harriet Hageman recently announced that she will be running for U.S. Senate in 2026. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from USA Today for December 31st to January 1st on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We will return for more readings after this short break. Your reader for this hour has been Dasha.
You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555.
Hello, this is Marian Heatherly, Community Engagement Coordinator for your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, and I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes as another year comes to a close. We've been reflecting on what we've accomplished in 2025 and what needs to be done in the new year. And you, our listeners, are at the heart of everything. One of our most important goals in 2026 is to sign up new listeners. More than 100,000 people across the Western New York, Greater Rochester, Southern Ontario region with vision loss, limited mobility, learning disabilities, or other reading challenges would benefit from our programming, but we only know a fraction of them because they're listening online. We love that you're using the service. Could you please take a moment now to let us know you're listening online by calling 716-821-5555 extension 5 and leaving a message, or just send us a quick email to read@nfradioreading.org. It's very important for funding applications and other activities to have an accurate count of listeners. We'd also appreciate listeners' help spreading the word about radio reading. Our listeners are the best ambassadors of the service because you know us and use us. Do you belong to a group that would like radio reading to come speak? Please give us a call at 716-821-5555, extension 3. Do you have a friend or loved one who would benefit from radio reading? Please have them give us a
We'll
call.
continue now with our reading of articles from today's issue of the USA Today. Your reader for this hour is Nancy. This is the sports section. Crazy is as crazy does on MNF. Weird stuff. One team is headed to the NFC playoffs led by a quarterback who might bag the first NFL MVP award of his career. The other team was eliminated from the playoff race a couple of weeks ago amid swirling speculation about the job security of key power brokers. So, what good was that equation? Well, when you add Atlanta Falcons wonderback Bijan Robinson to the mix, anything can happen. And it did. Backed by Robinson's 195-yard rushing showcase, which included a scintillating 93-yard touchdown run, the Falcons stunned the Los Angeles Rams 27-24 in a display of theater that kept on giving in the Week 17 Monday Night Football matchup. The winning points came on a 50-yard field goal by Zane Gonzalez with 21 seconds left in the game. But even after that, the Rams had a chance to force overtime. How crazy was it? Matthew Stafford, the LA quarterback who might be MVP, threw 3 interceptions and still nearly won. On that tricky NFL, what a show. There was a pick six as Falcons safety Jesse Bates III went 34 yards to the house. Rams linebacker Jared Verse one-upped that by blocking a Gonzalez field goal, try late in the third quarter, and returning it 76 yards for a touchdown. There was an amazing catch by Puka Nacua. Who else? Between two defenders for an apparent game-tying 41-yard TD in the fourth quarter, except it was nullified. Then Nakua's apparent catch in the final seconds, which might have set up a try for a field goal, was, confirmed as incomplete by instant replay. It appeared that his second foot lifted off the turf a split second before he survived the ground as he landed out of bounds with the ball cradled by his left arm. A crazy game of inches. 100% Nakua agreed. It takes every inch. It requires every ounce of effort that you've got. Robinson said that as the replay review determined whether it was a catch or not, he sat on the Falcons' bench pleading to a higher power. Prayers answered. That the Falcons were so invested, though, provided another testimony. They have won 3 consecutive games since being mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Determined to finish the season strong, while questions persist about the direction of the franchise under coach Raheem Morris and general manager Terry Fontenot. That's what's there to play for. Pride for one thing, job for another. We're in the NFL, Robinson said. We can't give up anything in this league. Number one, that's how injuries happen. That's how bad things happen. You lose the identity of a team. So for us, we made it known that as soon as we got that elimination, we're going to finish the season off the right way. Finish off strong. We're all men. Robinson, who also caught 5 passes for 34 yards, had 229 yards from scrimmage to mark another banner night. He broke the franchise's single-season record for yards from scrimmage that had stood for 43 years since set by William Andrews in 1983, 2,176 yards, raising his league-leading total to to 2,255 yards. And the record was so fitting on that night that the Falcons, who are 7-9, started off so hot. They led 21-0, then still had to sweat the ending. The comeback attempt, though, was no consolation for Stafford, who had his worst game of the season. I obviously didn't play well enough, he grumbled afterward. That's what it is. And it was another example of the wild swinging games that have marked this NFL season. The Rams, who are 11-5, know it all too well. In Week 16, they had a 30-14 lead in the fourth quarter at Seattle, then lost 38-37 in overtime. That, after the incredible Week 15 drama that involved the Falcons, who trailed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 28-14 in the fourth quarter and won 29-28. Speaking of the Bucs, Monday night's outcome weighed heavily on their chances to claim a fifth NFC South crown. Even if the Bucs knock off the Carolina Panthers on Saturday, there's the prospect of a three-way tie for the division title, with three teams all finishing with an 8-9 record. And if the Bucs, Panthers, and Falcons, who close against the New Orleans Saints on Sunday, wind up tied, the tiebreaker edge and division crown would go to the Panthers. Go figure. Man, that sucks, Robinson said. But it is what it is. You never know what can happen in this league. Of course, with Monday night providing a fresh example, crazy things never cease to happen in the NFL. Playoff drivers. Miami plots upset plan for Ohio State. It's clear 23 years is not enough time for the stew to simmer over Miami losing the 2002 National Championship to Ohio State. That bad blood is boiling anew ahead of the 2025 Cotton Bowl. The Hurricanes advanced in the college football playoff with a hard-fought win over Texas A&M. As a prize, UM earned the right to play the reigning national champions and exact revenge for the 2003 Fiesta Bowl, when the underdog Buckeyes stunned the Canes and won their first title in 34 years. Ohio State receiver Jeremiah Smith, who grew up in the shadows of the Hurricane Stadium in Miami Gardens, said, "We got something for 'em come New Year's Eve." Maurice Claret, who scored the winning touchdown in that game, dressed up as the Grinch and tagged Miami on social media post. "I'm here to steal Hurricanes, Christmas, and hope of a national championship again." Nothing would make Miami fans happier than turning the tables on the Buckeyes, who came one game short of entering the playoff undefeated. The Cotton Bowl will pit two of the nation's best defenses against each other, with the winner moving on to the Fiesta Bowl and the semifinals. The two schools' football programs met most famously in the Bowl Championship Series national title game after the 2002 season, with Ohio State controversially winning the Fiesta Bowl in double overtime. Miami had scored a touchdown in the initial extra period, and it appeared as though a fourth down pass from Craig Krenzel to Chris Gamble fell incomplete, but officials penalized cornerback Glenn Sharp for pass interference, giving the Buckeyes a chance to tie the game. In the second overtime, Claret ran in the go-ahead score for OSU, and Ken Dorsey and the Hurricanes were denied their 35th consecutive win and second straight national title. Let's walk through the three most crucial factors to the Hurricanes leaving Arlington, with a win and a berth in the college football playoff semifinals. Miami's Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor must pressure Ohio State's Julian Sayin all game. The Buckeyes have plenty of firepower, with 1,000-yard running back Bo Jackson. No, not that Bo Jackson. And All-American receivers Smith and Carnell Tate. But though the quarterback was a Heisman finalist and set the football subdivision record for a completion percentage, Julian Sayin is still a sophomore and hasn't been tested much. He lost a head-to-head matchup with Fernando Mendoza in the Big Ten championship game and fell short on a crucial fourth down QB sneak late in that game. Led by Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, Miami is number 4 in the nation at sacking the quarterback. They'll need to build on the 7 they put up at Texas A&M. 2. Miami receiver Malachi Tony will need to be magic. The All-American freshman wide receiver made up for his fourth quarter fumble against Texas A&M by scoring the game's only touchdown. But apart from the score and his 50-yard punt return in the second quarter, Tony was not much of a factor, getting only 9 touches for 31 yards. The 18-year-old is just shy of 1,000 receiving yards, and he closed the regular season with 2 of his biggest stat lines of the year. He'll need to do it again for Miami to pull the upset. Hurricanes can't have costly penalties and mistakes. The Hurricanes stayed disciplined against Texas A&M, committing only 4 penalties for 30 yards. In the 1991 Cotton Bowl, Miami drew 202 yards worth of flags and still won 46-3. That's not going to fly against the Buckeyes, the 11th least penalized and 18th highest scoring team in the country. In their loss to SMU, the Canes had 12 penalties for 96 yards, and they put up 9 for 67 in the Louisville loss. They could have been bitten at A&M by O.J. Frederick continuing a hit on Casey Concepcion after the whistle, but it wouldn't be a surprise if Ohio State would get that call. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 12 minutes after the hour. Quarterfinals offer high-profile matchups. Cotton Bowl in Arlington, Texas, Wednesday, December 31st at 7:30. Spread by BetMGM, Ohio State by 9.5. The first of the 4 quarterfinal bowls featuring the defending college football playoff champion Buckeyes, again officially the Big Ten runners-up, but this time receiving a first-round bye due to new seeding policies, against the Hurricanes, the last team in from the at-large pool according to the rankings, but justifying their inclusion with the first-round victory at Texas A&M. Miami quarterback Carson Beck could use another strong outing from running back Mark Fletcher and his run blockers, who will be up against the stingy Buckeyes ground defense that surrenders just 84.5 yards per game. Beck has a constant big play threat in wide receiver Malachi Tony, but the deep waters in the middle of the field, where safety Caleb Downs and linebacker Sonny Styles patrol, can be quite treacherous. Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin might need to stretch the field more as well. He certainly has the weapons with wide receivers Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, but the issue will be having enough time to find them, with Hurricanes defensive ends Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor coming at him from the edges. Prediction: the defenses will set the tone in this one with just a few big throws mixed in. The Buckeyes will force a key miscue late and come away with the win. Ohio State 24-17. Orange Bowl in Miami Gardens. Number 4 Texas Tech versus number 5 Oregon. Thursday, January 1st, noon. Spread by BetMGM, Oregon by 2.5. Leading off the Thursday trio of playoff contests is arguably the most intriguing of the round. The Ducks, as expected, handled their assignment against James Madison with little difficulty. The Red Raiders could provide to be a different matter, though they too are something of a mystery, with little on their resume outside the Big 12. Texas Tech's calling card all season has been its ferocious defense, exemplified by linebackers David Bailey and Jacob Rodriguez, making numerous plays in opponents' backfields. Ducks quarterback Dante Moore usually gets superb protection with help from running back Noah Whittington, but he might have to pick and choose when to take deep shots. Red Raiders quarterback Beren Morton is a capable passer in his own right, and running backs Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams lend plenty of ground support. The Oregon defense features linebacker Bryce Bottasher at its center, and Tatum Tuoti and Mateo Ugalele bringing heat from the edges. Prediction? This might be another case of rest versus rust, which proved the undoing of all the first-round bye teams last year. The Ducks could benefit from being in action more recently, as well as JMU's late-scoring push allowing their coaches to emphasize keeping the pedal to the metal. Oregon 31-20. Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. Number 1 Indiana versus number 9 Alabama. Thursday, January 1st, 4 p.m. Spread, Indiana by 7. The Hoosiers passed their biggest test to date, conquering the Ohio State in the Big Ten finale to earn the top seed. Their reward, however, is now a date with the most successful program of the playoff era. Though the Crimson Tide are seeking their first title in the post-Nick Saban era, though Indiana coach Curt Cignetti has said he's not a fan of his team's long layoff. The extra time has allowed wide receivers Omar Cooper and Elijah Sarrett to get back to full speed. That is excellent news for Heisman-winning quarterback Fernando Mendoza as he looks to solve the active Crimson Tide secondary, featuring S. Bray Hubbard and C.B. Zabian Brown. Alabama QB Ty Simpson was able to overcome a slow start last time out in his rematch with Oklahoma, but he'll have to be sharper early against the Hoosiers' equally formidable pass defense, led by S. Lewis Moore and cornerback D'Angelo Pons. Prediction? There's a prove-it element on both sidelines. This is still new territory for the Indiana program, but while Kalen DeBoer has won the playoff, he's still under pressure to deliver a championship to a fan base that expects them. All that aside, however, Indiana has been the more complete team this season and will show it here. Indiana 23-13. Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. Number 3 Georgia versus number 6 Ole Miss. Thursday, January 1st, 8 p.m. Spread by BetMGM. Georgia by a 6.5. For the second time in this college football playoff, the Rebels face a team they saw before in the regular season. This time, though, Ole Miss is looking to avenge a loss. The Bulldogs perhaps playing the best football of any of the 8 remaining CFP teams when they dispatched Alabama in the SEC finale, must hope the lengthy downtime hasn't sapped their momentum. The Bulldogs' offense is not a quick-strike unit, but quarterback Gunnar Stockton is completing 70.7% of his throws, and his group converts on 45.2% of its third down chances. Ole Miss linebacker Prince Will Umanamilin and defensive tight end Will Eccles must keep Georgia off schedule. Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss and running back Kewan Lacey are just as good at keeping the chains moving. But linebacker C.G. Allen and the Bulldogs' defense was all but immovable over the last month of the season. Prediction: the Rebels were able to score points, 35 of them to be precise, in their first encounter with the Bulldogs. But Georgia put up 43, demonstrating its ability to adjust to game conditions. Coach Kirby Smart has been here with the Bulldogs before, and they will show it as they prevail in another close one, Georgia 35-27. LeBron celebrates yet another marker. In the history of the NBA, 31 players have scored at least 1 point in a regular season game following their 40th birthday. The number of players to do so at 41 is only 8. Los Angeles Lakers icon LeBron James on Tuesday night was set to become the 9th. And yet, another marker of his longevity and greatness, James celebrated his birthday on Tuesday, December 30th on the hard court in a nationally broadcast home game against the Detroit Pistons. James is the singular talent of this era. His play naturally is in decline. Yet, regardless of the nightly emotion and angst that surrounds his performances, James is reimagining the standard of production for someone his age. Put another way, he's doing things that have never been done. "I'm in a battle with Father Time," he told reporters Sunday, "and I would like to say that I'm kicking his ass on the back nine." Though he might not have the explosive first step, and though he's playing a career-low 32.9 minutes per game, James is nonetheless averaging 20.5 points, 6.7 assists, and 4.9 rebounds on a solidly efficient 50.7% shooting, figures that are striking for someone his age. By comparison, before James turned 40 last season, the nightly averages for players after their 40th birthdays had been 6.6 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 1.4 assists per game. It is remarkable, Lakers coach J.J. Redick told reporters Monday after a Lakers practice. "I have trouble getting out of bed in the morning and got to get an injection on my knee. My body is old and broken. It's like that saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. And once I stopped using it, I lost it all. I can still barely touch the rim, though, which is nice." This is another area where James has an advantage over pretty much every human. During his final game as a 40-year-old, a 24-point victory Sunday over the Kings, James didn't just touch the rim, he scored by it, throwing down a thunderous reverse dunk, 2 of his 24 points. Although Kareem Abdul-Jabbar holds the NBA record for most career points scored, 1,941, by a player after turning 40, Abdul-Jabbar played in 156 such games. Tuesday night against the Pistons, James was playing in his 57th game since his 40th, and he already has 1,340 points since then, 4th all time. And while many players only picked up spot minutes after the Big 4-0, James is playing a key role in Los Angeles, starting and carrying the team in non-Luka Doncic minutes. James' 23.9 points per game post 40 rank first all time, just ahead of Michael Jordan's 22.4. Yet this season has not been the smoothest for James. For one, he missed the entire preseason and the first 14 games of the year with a sciatica nerve issue. This marked the first time in his basketball career, going back to prep school, that he had missed any season opener. Los Angeles won the first 4 games in which James played. Then James had his record streak of consecutive games of double figures in scoring snapped at 1,297, or nearly 19 years, though he did it on a play that exemplified his leadership. He passed up the would-be game-winning shot for the game-winning assist. And now the Lakers are struggling through the worst stretch of their season, losing 6 of their past 11 and 3 of the past 4, a stretch that prompted an uncomfortable team meeting. A lot of it is fit and philosophy. Since James has returned from his injury, the Lakers have struggled to find cohesion on the floor. He and star guard Doncic both thrive when the ball is in their hands, and Redick has failed to create a structure that balances Doncic playing off the ball and James staying engaged and avoiding periods of difference. Since we've gotten Bron back, we haven't been as organized offensively, Redick told reporters Saturday. Too many random possessions. That's on me. It's also incumbent on Redick to solve the issue, because if the Lakers crash out, they rank 5th in the Western Conference at 20-10. They will face an uncertain future this offseason, with no established star to play along Doncic. Plenty of blame will also be heaped on James, unfairly or not. There's even a block of Lakers fans on social media who have been calling for James to be moved, which becomes unlikely, given that he has a no-trade clause. The reality is Los Angeles is stuck with James for the rest of this season, unless he asks to be dealt before the trading deadline of February 5th. The window to win is now, and the Lakers need to do what they can to maximize that. Think coaching adjustments and complementary trades. Because despite the massive contract and despite the constant second-guessing that comes with having him on the roster, James is giving the Lakers far more than what they should expect from someone his age. Upstart team unseats reeling Thunder. The calendar year is about to close and NBA action is about to heat up. Not only is the trade deadline a little more than a month away, but we finally have a new number 1 atop these USA Today Sports Power rankings. The Oklahoma City Thunder have dominated basketball for a full season, and then some, but they have a hit and recent skid, losing 4 of their last 7, which came after a 16-game winning streak. The Thunder still have reigning most valuable player Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the young core remains intact, so it's not time to sound the alarms. It's clear, however, that there are at least some challenges capable of playing with OKC. Here are USA Today's Sports NBA Power Rankings after Week 9 of the 2025-26 regular season. Records and stats through December 28th, parentheses show movement from last week's rankings. Top 5. Number 1, San Antonio Spurs, 23-8. Oklahoma City Thunder, 27-5. Detroit Pistons, 24-8. New York Knicks, 22-9. Denver Nuggets, 22-9. You don't defeat the top team and defending champions 3 times in the span of 13 days without taking an edge over them. The Spurs may not be at all the way complete, but with Victor Wembanyama all the way back and their trio of speedy guards pushing pace, San Antonio may be breaking out as an incredibly dangerous team. The Spurs, at least right now, are just that. The Nuggets got a massive day from Nikola Jokic on Christmas Day, but 3 losses in 5 games is a bit of a concern. Numbers 6 to 10. Boston Celtics, 19-12. Minnesota Timberwolves, 20-12. Houston Rockets, 19-10. Los Angeles Lakers, 20-10. Phoenix Suns, 18-13. Boston is quietly lurking, though its schedule has been relatively light with no games played yet against Western Conference powers, the Spurs, Thunder, or Nuggets. The Timberwolves will kick themselves for giving away a 9-point lead in overtime to the Nuggets on Christmas Day, a game that would carry seeding implications down the road. The big concern for the Lakers is that they still haven't figured out how to play cohesively with both Luka Doncic and LeBron James, both on the floor. Losing Austin Reeves to a calf injury for extended time doesn't help either. Numbers 11-15. 11, Orlando Magic, 18-14. 12, Toronto Raptors, 19-14. Miami Heat, 17-15. 14, Cleveland Cavaliers, 17-16. 15, Philadelphia 76ers, 16-14. Every team in this middle pack suffers from lack of consistency. The Magic have seemingly altered between wins and losses all December. The Cavaliers clearly need to rework their roster, so expect them to be active before the trading deadline. After jumping up the rankings last week, the Sixers have dropped 3 consecutive games and need improved perimeter shooting from role players. Numbers 16-20. 16, Golden State Warriors, 16-16. Memphis Grizzlies, 15-17. Chicago Bulls, 15-17. 19, Milwaukee Bucks, 13-19. And number 20, Atlanta Hawks, 15-18. The Bulls have actually won 5 of their past 6 and are playing far quicker, but they are victims of movement above them. Getting Giannis Antetokounmpo back and healthy is the boost the Bucks needed, though trade rumors will not go away, and the Hawks have lost 6 consecutive and are 0-5 in games Trae Young has played in since his return, averaging 133 points per game in those contests. Atlanta might be best served to ship him off. Numbers 21-25. 21, Portland Trail Blazers, 13-19. 22, Utah Jazz, 12-19. 23, Los Angeles Clippers, 10-21. 24, Dallas Mavericks, 12-21. 25, Charlotte Hornets, 11-20. Have the Clippers finally turned the corner? Winners of 4 consecutive, 3 of those have come against solid opponents: the Pistons, the Rockets, and the Lakers. Anthony Davis is hurt once again, and the Mavericks have lost 4 of 5, and the Hornets have some markers of an improving team. They are tied for first in defensive rebounding percentage, 71.6%, and ranked 5th in three-pointers made per game. Numbers 26-30. 26, Brooklyn Nets, 10-19. 27, New Orleans Pelicans, 8-25. Sacramento Kings, 8-24. 29, Washington Wizards, 7-23. And 30, Indiana Pacers, 6-26. The Nets are on a little tear, winning 3 in a row against the Raptors, 76ers, and Timberwolves. The Pelicans desperately need shooting, ranking dead last in the NBA in threes made per game, and the Pacers are the worst offensive team in basketball, ranking last in rating. The return of Aaron Nesmith will help, but it won't fix all their issues. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 36 minutes after the hour. This is the Life section. Stranger Things star Schnapp is ready for his return to normal things. Noah Schnapp was at a sleepaway camp when season 1 of Stranger Things dropped on Netflix in July of 2016. You don't have your phone and you're not part of the real world. You get 3 calls with your parents every summer. Schnapp, 21, recalls over a laid-back game of Jenga at a Union Square cafe. But gradually, I remember my mom sending me emails being like, "Noah, you have a fan page and you hit 10,000 followers." I was like, what? 9 years and nearly 24 million Instagram followers. Schnapp is getting ready to say goodbye to Will Byers, the floppy-haired youngster he has inhibited for 5 seasons of the sci-fi phenomenon Stranger Things. As we sit beneath shelves lined with Magic, The Gathering, and Warhammer Quest, the young actor is oscillating between excitement and good-natured panic. After 3 new episodes on Christmas Day, Stranger Things ended with a supersized finale December 31st. And in the spring, Schnapp will graduate from the University of Pennsylvania, where he studies film. I keep going through these cycles of, "Oh, my life is over and I'm going to be so sad," Schnapp says. But then it's like, oh, anything could happen now. If we had another season of Stranger Things, it would be just so tired. This is the perfect time to end it, and it's a nice fresh start for next year. In last month's Volume 1 cliffhanger, Will assessed mysterious newfound powers to fight the Demogorgons and save his friends. It was a jaw-dropping revelation for the character, who has been dismissed as timid and weak ever since he was kidnapped and pulled into the Upside Down in Season 1. Over the years, Schnapp was reluctant to voice his concerns about Will to the series creators, Matt and Ross Duffer, but before Season 5, he worked up the confidence to give them a call. I was like, guys, the show starts with him, and then we just sidelined him after Season 3. Can we clear up why he was the first victim? Schnapp recalls, Volume 2, he teases, explores Will's internal stakes and gets more into answering questions about why this all exists. The parallels between Will and Vesna, Jamie Campbell Bower, are little like Harry Potter and Voldemort. The remaining episodes also will delve into Will's romantic longing for his best friend, Mike, Finn Wolfhard. The character has gradually embraced his queer identity much in the same way as Schnapp, who came out in a TikTok video in 2023. But for years before then, Schnapp remembers being cornered by journalists about his sexuality. It was weird for interviewers to ask a 12-year-old kid, "Do you think Will's gay? Do you relate to the character? And are you gay?" he says. It was so personal and overstepping. Coming out can be challenging enough for any queer kid, as you worry about the impact it might have on your personal relationships. But then, on top of that, it was like, oh, but I also have a full-time job that's supporting my whole life, Schnapp says. How does this affect my future and my ability to work and be seen in roles that aren't just the queer kid? It was weird to have not just the conversation with your friends and family, but to have a talk to my publicist and my manager like, is this okay if I come out publicly, or do I have to hide it for the rest of my career? Like most of his Stranger Things castmates, Schnapp has endured his share of invasive fans. During freshman year of college, he remembers students banging on his door and shouting his name at all times of night. Even before today's interview, a young woman waits outside the bathroom and corners him for a selfie, which he politely obliges. Everyone's very respectful for the most part, but people overstep it a lot, Schnapp says. He used to spend hours responding to every message and searching his name on social media to see what people were saying, but he has since taken a step back from most platforms. I have my vision board for 2026. Social media is not real life, Schnapp says. You have to learn to set boundaries for your own mental health. It's not healthy to internalize every single opinion in the world every 10 seconds. Even in the news season, friends will ask him whether he has seen fan edits and memes about Will's ability, but he watches only what people send him. That validation is fickle, and it goes up and down, Schnapp says. When you're high, they all want you, and when you're low, they don't. You have to learn not to derive your self-worth from these people that don't know you. It's not easy growing up in the spotlight. Schnapp looks up to his Stranger Things co-star Sadie Sink, who has formed a healthy relationship with fame. He also leans on Millie Bobby Brown and Maya Hawke, both whom have similarly endured varying degrees of public scrutiny and curiosity. It's hard to grow up in the public eye, Schnapp says. You don't know yourself. You haven't figured anything out, and now you're expected to know everything and have all the answers. I was constantly saying the wrong things or being embarrassed by not taking certain things seriously that I should have, and then that lives on forever. People grow and learn, and to do that publicly is not easy. He agrees with Ariana Grande's assertion that every child actor should have mandatory therapy. For a while, he figured he was a happy-go-lucky kid and didn't need a therapist, although he has since gotten one. Through the years, it becomes like, no, this is an abnormal life, and you need some type of support system outside of your parents, Schnapp says. Growing up, I never understood why people were depressed or turned to drugs or eating disorders. As you get older, you understand how the pressures of Hollywood can create that. I always tell my parents I could never live in LA. I think I would get lost. The actor is based in New York, where he consumes a healthy diet of pop culture. He cried nonstop after watching All of Us Strangers and is embarrassed to say he only recently saw Wicked on Broadway. He would like to try screenwriting and directing one day, although his main goals for 2026 are to take more acting classes and stay off the damn phone. I know I probably won't do something as big as Stranger Things again, Schnapp acknowledges. It's the biggest show in the world. I don't expect to keep competing with that level of viewership. But now I have this opportunity to get smaller indie movies or be seen for a theater show, and I'm grateful that Stranger Things has set me up financially to be okay for the rest of my life. What more could I ask for? After Eras, Beyonce and Lady Gaga pick up the torch. There might not have been an Eras tour to break billion-dollar records, but 2025 still produced stadium spectacles, innovative arena productions, and impressive club performances from a slew of superstars not named Taylor Swift. Classic rock turned with the voraciously received tour by AC/DC and a reminder of The Who's Mike catalog on their last tour of the United States. In smaller venues, power chord rockers include Joan Jett and Heart roared with undiminished vigor. Zach Bryan launched into stadiums, as did Post Malone with Jelly Roll, Chris Brown, and Shakira, who dealt with stage structure snoffs as she snaked across the country. Coldplay finally wrapped its 3.5-year Music of the Spheres Stadium Marathon, setting a record for the highest grossing tour by a band. It hit the $1 billion mark last year and added nearly $465 million from 59 shows in 2005, according to Billboard. And a special shout out to Katy Perry, whose Lifetime's tour earned scorn from anonymous internet haters. But in reality, those who actually attended know the show was fun, vibrant, clever, and packed with her fizzy pop hits and goofy charm. My past 12 months of concert going included more than 24 shows, most of them tour kickoffs that included every new residency at the Sphere in Las Vegas, Kenny Chesney, Backstreet Boys, Zac Brown Band, that all impressed in different ways. Here are the top 10 concerts that resonated with me the most. Number 10, Dua Lipa. Though she's been touring behind her album Radical Optimism for 10 months before hitting the United States, Dua Lipa was hardly on autopilot by the time she brought her pop spectacle to Chicago's United Center in September, where she dropped 22 songs polished to precision. Whether writhing with her dancers during training day or high-kicking through levitating, her glee was apparent. Throughout the tour, Lipa offered fans a novel supplement, performing a cover song from an artist associated with the city and sometimes bringing said singer on stage. Chicago welcomed Chaka Khan, and other shows cheered Lenny Kravitz, Gwen Stefani, Billie Joe Armstrong, and Lionel Richie among Lipa's guests. Number 9, Kelly Clarkson. For her second Las Vegas residency that began in July, Kelly Clarkson went home, at least her studio home, which she transported to the stage at the Coliseum at Caesar's Palace, for a show that both rocked and reveled at her authenticity. Dubbed the studio sessions, the concert was warm and inviting, an atmosphere cultivated by Clarkson's personal artifacts, lamps, photos, her favorite studio mic, and her frank, unpretentious humor and storytelling. Of course, a Clarkson show requires her powerhouse vocals, and she delivered 20 years of hits, including Because of You, Catch My Breath, and Stronger, What Doesn't Kill You, with smiling gusto. Clarkson was forced to postpone most of her summer dates because of the death of her ex-husband and father of her children, Brandon Blackstock. She returned in November and has a set of dates in July and August for those who want to be dazzled. Number 8, Doechii. Seasoned beyond her 27 years, Doechii proved a vigorous bundle of talent in her October stop at the Anthem in Washington, D.C., as part of her Live from the Swamp tour, with the classroom and a stage-sized boombox as her backdrops. Doechii showcased her chameleonic style, short plaid skirts and combat boots, pinstriped suits, ab-bearing two-pieces, as she rapped, danced, twerked, and slithered through 24 songs. Her Busta Rhymes-influenced, breath-defying raps were both fierce, nosebleeds, and fearless, crazy. The Tampa native already nabbed her first Grammy this year and is up for 5 in February. Attached to her unshakable anxiety, expect to hear her name called often. Number 7, Backstreet Boys. Millennials, Thy Name is Nostalgia. That could have been all the Backstreet Boys brought to their Sphere residency, which launched in July. But as the first pop act to employ the technical wizardry of the already famed Las Vegas venue, Backstreet Boys brought fans, predominantly women wearing white who grew up shrieking for them on TRL on a 2-hour joyride. The mere sight of Nick Carter, Kevin Richardson, Brian Littrell, Howie Dorough, and A.J. McLean prompted those same ear-splitting squeals as the guys celebrated their 1999 smash album, Millennium, with the futuristic theme show that spotlighted the album's perfect harmonies. I Want It That Way, and love-lorn ballads, Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely. In another sphere first, Backstreet Boys also went airborne atop a vertigo-inducing, for them anyway, platform. The boys are back in town starting late December. Number 6, Kendrick Lamar and SZA. Even casual fans of Kendrick Lamar and SZA would be impressed by their 2.5-hour, 52-song romp that bobbed and weaved through their dichotomous styles. The first surprise was Lamar hitting the stage first at April's tour opener at U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. The second was that SZA joined him after a few songs. This was no mere opening headliner presentation. No, the Grand National Tour was crafted to swap lyrics, 30 for 30 and Luther, as well as allow the hip-hop superstars their own paths to roam. Squabble Up and Humble for him, Scorsese Baby Daddy, and F2F for her. Lamar already made history in February by performing the most-watched Super Bowl halftime performance in NFL history. But his real mic drop was demonstrating through 39 stadium shows in North America and Europe why he's not like anybody else. Number 5, Oasis. It's an observance worth repeating. You never thought it would happen, but Noel and Liam Gallagher defied odds makers and rounded the UK and Ireland for 6 weeks before landing in Toronto in August for a 4-city, multi-date North American run. There was Liam, hands clasped behind his back, chin tilted upward as he stretched his nasal tone over "Do You Know What I Mean?" and Morning Glory. There was Noel, head down, studiously playing guitar on Live Forever as a cold downpour augmented by swirling wind whipped through Rogers Stadium. It was a night of boisterous Brit pop and joyful bonding, and yes, it really did happen. Number 4, Benson Boone. A combination of charm, swagger, and gas-attended chic attire thrust Benson Boone into sold-out, all-arena tour territory. Well, that plus a swelling hits list that already includes glistening pop sing-alongs, Sorry I'm Here for Someone Else, and Mystical Magical from his second studio album, American Heart. That Boone takes some vocal and performance cues from Freddie Mercury, one of the most magnetic forces in music history, doesn't hurt either. Let's also not forget the element of Boone's live shows that initially attracted attention. His high-flying flips that likely caused his insurance company sleepless nights, but inject impressive razzle-dazzle, as they did at his August tour opener in St. Paul, Minnesota. Boone is a natural showman with an abundance of long-haul potential. Number 3, Paul McCartney. How lucky are we to live in a world where Paul McCartney, 83, is not only still filling arenas and stadium, but also affirms his love of music by playing a handful of club shows just because he relishes being on stage? Months before his Get Back tour commenced in the California desert, McCartney trapezed through snowy New York in February for a trio of hastily announced $50 ticket concerts at the Bowery Ballroom. Night 1 on a grungy club stage in front of about 500 fans. McCartney and his airtight band rolled through a glorious 100-minute set that started with A Hard Day's Night, closed with the famed Abbey Road medley of Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight, The End. And in between touched on Wings, Mrs. Vanderbilt, solo work, Maybe I'm Amazed, and a Beatles rarity, the 2023 released Now and Then. Some little gigs, why not? McCartney asked the crowd rhetorically. Whatever his reason, all we can say is thanks, Paul. Number 2, Beyoncé. Of course, Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter tour was going to be about the message as much as the music. Her excellent, albeit polarizing album that gave the 32-show stadium tour its name remained front and center, drawing 19 of the 36 songs played on opening night at Los Angeles' SoFi Stadium from the record. They don't know how hard I had to fight for this when I sing my song, she told the crowd during the opening American Requiem. But along with her potent new work, Beyoncé stopped through Crazy in Love, Formation, and other resonating hits from her ample oeuvre to keep fans at the maximum level of frenzy. When not in lockstep with her precise dance crew, she was swapping costumes, flying over the rapt crowd on a neon horseshoe, riding a gilded bull, or, in the sweetest moments, watching with a smile when daughters Blue Ivy and Rumi appeared for adorable cameos. Not that Beyoncé has anything to prove, but she conquered yet another challenge with her usual unrelenting determination and grace. Number 1, Lady Gaga. Simply put, Lady Gaga is the ultimate performer. Her Mayhem Ball evoked the performance art of Ziggy Stardust and the influence of Alice in Wonderland, corralled inside a Gothic opera house. Electrifying? Check. Vocally remarkable? Yes. Wonderfully weird? You know it. Whether conducting Abracadabra from atop a billowing throne of blood red and black, reverting to her past with the disco-fied love game, or turning shallow into a soothing prayer, Gaga's unflagging intensity reigned during this enchanting production that opened in July at Las Vegas's T-Mobile Arena. She'll return to the United States starting in February for another round of dates that delve into her dualities of chaos and wonder. She will not disappoint. You've been listening to a reading of the USA Today for Wednesday, December 31st, 2025. We read the USA Today. We read the USA Today weekdays at noon. For more information, call us at 716-821-5555. Your reader for this hour has been Nancy, and Happy New Year.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have Scientific American in place of a book because it's New Year's Eve. At 3 o'clock, we have Healthy Living, and at 4 o'clock, we have a re-airing of today's Buffalo News. Stay with us for these readings and more. Are you facing challenges with vision loss and need help with your smartphone, sending emails, navigating the internet, and staying connected with your family? VIA, Visually Impaired Advancement, is offering free classes for seniors weekly at multiple locations with free assistance for your smartphone, email, and internet skills. There's a new session every week, and it rotates between the South Towns and the North Towns. It's at your local Erie County libraries and at 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. For more information, call Elhana Porter at 716-888-4632. Again, that's 716-888-4632. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision,